In just the last few days, 3 massive frontier models have launched into a market that used to have a clear leader. For teams building on these APIs, the choice of where to route traffic just got significantly more complicated. This line graph shows the revenue trajectories of the 2 biggest players. Notice OpenAI plateauing right here at $25 billion. Then look at Anthropic. They just crossed the $30 billion mark in annual recurring revenue this quarter. The financial stakes for getting your AI stack right are immediate. Snap just cut 16% of its workforce because AI now writes over 65% of their new code. And the market rewarded them with a 7 to 11% stock jump. But relying on a single provider for those gains carries a specific risk. Yesterday morning, ChatGPT went offline, along with Codex and the entire OpenAI API. For 90 minutes, millions of users were locked out, and production pipelines everywhere ground to a halt. That 90-minute window was a stress test for every company reliant on a single API. It forces a specific trade-off. Do you prioritize the simplicity of one pipeline, or do you accept the engineering friction of a multi-model setup to ensure against the next outage? So if you're building software right now, you have a strict choice to make about where to direct your engineering hours. Option 1 is the status quo. You keep your current API architecture exactly where it is and wait. Prediction markets give 78% odds that OpenAI launches its GPT-6 Spud super app by the end of the month. Option 2 is migration. You actively rip out your existing routing and switch your production workloads over to Anthropic's newly released Claude Opus 4.7. Option 3 is disruption. You abandon proprietary APIs entirely and self-host the new, highly capable open-source models, like China's GLM 5.1. Sitting on your hands waiting for the next big release is a trap. You need to actively evaluate these 3 paths against your current bottlenecks today. Let's look at the OpenAI path. The primary benefit here is zero immediate engineering friction. You don't have to touch your existing code bases or rewrite your system prompts. But you might have to do some work anyway. OpenAI just announced a 30-day deprecation window for the GPT-5 thinking mini model. If that is in your production stack, you are on the clock to update it. The bigger risk is that by staying loyal today, you are accepting second-tier coding performance while your competitors upgrade. This matrix lays out market capabilities. Look at the coding competency row. Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.7 outperforms everything on complex, multi-file software engineering. It also introduces task budgets to cap compute for autonomous agents and processes vision at 2576 pixels, nearly 4 megapixels. Accessing this requires actual work. You have to rebuild your API pipelines and thoroughly rewrite your prompts from OpenAI's logic to Anthropic style. And there is a catch. Anthropic publicly stated that Opus 4.7 does not match the performance of their unreleased Mythos model, which they are withholding for safety reasons. So if you migrate to Anthropic, you are trading immediate pipeline friction for the best coding capabilities on the market right now, even knowing you are only getting their second-best technology. The third option removes third-party APIs entirely. You can now self-host open-source models, and the conversation this week is laser-focused on GPU's newly released GLM 5.1. This bar chart of SWE Bench Pro evaluations shows why. GLM 5.1 scores 58.4, edging out both GPT 5.4 and Claude Opus 4.6. It's a massive 744 billion parameter mixture of experts model, built entirely on domestic Chinese chips, bypassing US export controls. If you host this locally, your enterprise gains absolute data sovereignty. You pay 0 recurring API fees, and you are immune to the kind of vendor outages we saw yesterday. This quadrant chart plots the trade-off. GLM 5.1 sits in the extreme top right, providing high impact but immense hardware friction. For a lower friction alternative on edge deployments, Google's Gemma 4 31 billion parameter model gives strong capabilities without requiring server farm infrastructure. Keep in mind, using a model from Zhipu, a company on the US entity list, might trigger corporate compliance hurdles for American teams. Open source models now definitively match proprietary performance. For privacy-conscious teams willing to absorb massive hardware costs, they are a highly competitive choice. You shouldn't try to pick one absolute winner. The optimal strategy right now is to build a multi-model routing architecture that sends specific tasks to specific models. This flowchart shows how to protect uptime. If running production workloads on OpenAI, implement automated failovers routing rejected requests to Claude or Gemini. For software engineers, switch IDE integrations so coding tasks bypass default routing straight to Opus 4.7. If a workload involves sensitive user data or requires immense scale, direct those requests to a self-hosted GLM 5.1 node. Also watch for domain-specific models, like OpenAI's GPT Rosalind for biotech, suggesting general-purpose models aren't always the most efficient choice. Building this web drastically increases your engineering overhead. You are actively managing multiple vendors, billing cycles, and prompt architectures all at once. But managing that friction is the necessary price of admission. It is the only way to maintain 99.99% uptime and keep your team working with the most capable tools. Keep your evaluation pipelines and your cost spreadsheets ready today. OpenAI's GPT-6 SPUD could launch at any moment. Treat AI model providers as replaceable contractors, never as permanent marriages. Build your infrastructure to swap them out the moment the math changes. Agility is the only sustainable strategy. The teams that survive the 2026 model competition will be those who can switch sides the fastest.